Whatever it is, it's not right on the teleprompter. I don't know what that is. I've never seen that. Okay, but yeah, I can't read it. There's no words on it.
Okay. Ready?
There's no words there. To play us out. What does that mean? To play us out. All right, go. That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
No, we'll do it live.
What we need is for Republicans to stop talking about open borders.
When you see the CBP officers releasing migrants en masse on the street, do you think that sends a message to people that the border's open?
The border is not open.
What you see is different than what happens
The border is
in
not
actuality.
The border is not open. Ukraine is winning the war. The vaccine is safe and effective. The masks work. The lockdowns did nothing when it comes to schools. That's a really, really sad state of affairs. It's hard to reverse course where the major political party that controls every major institution, it's not a matter they have different solutions. It's not happening. There's no problem. It's not raining. We can't even agree on very basic reality. Very, very basic things. If you were to go to the House of Representatives, if you were to go to the Senate and you were to say, hey, what's a bigger problem? Climate change or the border? Every single one of them would say climate change. In fact, if they were to say there was anything happening at the border, they would say it would be because of climate change.
Wow.
There's no problem at the border. First-hand reports of people in El Paso, Texas, 5,000 illegals a day. A day. They're just opening it up. They can't process them. They're not DNA testing them. They're not doing background checks. We now have tuberculosis breakouts all across the board.
Wow.
And it's by design. As we articulated yesterday, destabilize, demoralize, and destroy, the 3 Ds of the Democrat Party. Bob Menendez is indicted. There's a lot to examine here. Breaking news? We've known Menendez as a crook for quite some time, so why now? Hombre, let me tell you what, this guy, he has been around for 11 years, lying and stealing and being deceitful. Bob Menendez has been indicted by the Department of Justice. So let's just focus on the facts here. First of all, Bob Menendez is no small cookie. He's no small fish. It's not like George Santos type stuff. He is the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee in the U.S. Senate. This guy has a lot of power. He is in classified briefings all the time. He is in SCIFs where highly sensitive classified information and material is being shared. Bob Menendez is as powerful as Joe Biden was in the U.S. Senate. So just remember that for a second. Bob Menendez is getting the same briefings that Joe Biden would once get when he was a senator from Delaware. So Bob Menendez is an outright crook. And look, we have a lot of fans from New Jersey, but I just have to lay it on you guys. New Jersey has a specialty in producing politicians that embezzle and are corrupt and are criminals. I'm not saying everyone from the Garden State is like that, but boy, he really is continuing the time-old tradition. And look, being from Chicago, I know a criminal when I see one, and Bob Menendez, he is in the tradition. The time-honored tradition, thank you, of Soprano, Corzine, and many others. So first of all, Menendez got off on a hung jury just a couple years ago. It was like a Medicare reimbursement thing for a donor that was a doctor. It was a little confusing, didn't look good for him, and he got off. You'd think that that would scare him into stopping doing suspicious activities. He doesn't know any different.
No,
He doesn't know
he got away with it.
how to operate ethically. Because remember, Democrats get lulled into sleep. Democrats believe they're untouchable, so they do not operate with the same sort of code of ethics, the same sort of, let's just say, atmospherics that Republicans or conservatives sometimes do. Now, I'm not
Because
saying
they
that
don't get in
Republicans
trouble.
commit less crimes than Democrats. I'm saying that
Because
Democrats get
nothing
away with their crimes.
happens.
So it creates a culture, the same culture that made Joe Biden so empowered to get on conference call after conference call with his son, selling us out to foreign powers. So when Democrats think they're above the law and that they run the regime, they're going to be more empowered to accept luxury vehicles and gold bars from foreign countries. Yeah, you would think that Bob Menendez would be a little bit more power, a little bit more careful,
Be going on.
and a little bit more precise. Everybody knows that you don't take the gold bars. You have your coke-head addicted son take the gold bars and then give you 10% for the big guy. Come on, Bob Menendez, you didn't get the memo? Now, Bob Menendez allegedly, based on the DOJ indictment, got paid by Egypt and other foreign powers, and not just, you know, hey, your mom is on some sort of corporate board, or that your wife is going to go give some speech. No, they just give him gold bars, kilos of gold bars.
The indictment alleges that Senator Menendez used his power and influence, including his leadership role on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, to benefit the government of Egypt in various ways.
They all do.
Among other actions, Senator Menendez allegedly provided sensitive, non-public U.S. government information to Egyptian officials and
Wow.
otherwise took steps to secretly aid the government of Egypt. We also allege that Senator Menendez improperly pressured a senior official at the U.S. Department of Agriculture to protect a lucrative monopoly that the government of Egypt had awarded to Hana.
Wow.
A lucrative monopoly that Hana then used to fund certain bribe payments.
Damian Williams going on from the Southern District of New York. You could replace Menendez with Biden and Egypt with Ukraine, and it's exactly what Joe Biden did. But let's talk about what's really going on here. First of all, I would be remiss to not just say, you know what, finally a scumbag Democrat is having a bad day. I'll be honest. I'm not supposed to take delight and rejoice in the suffering of my enemies. Well, I'm doing that because I need it. It's cathartic. It's
No,
helpful.
we're
It's therapeutic.
not.
I
We're
hope you
just
feel the same.
happy that
Finally one of these
something's happening.
scumbags that is selling on
Some
our
of them are
country
getting
is having a
held
bad Friday
accountable.
morning. Bob Menendez is not laughing his way to the bank. Bob Menendez is getting booked, fingerprinted, mugshot, and he has to meet with lawyers for the next couple weeks. But let's talk about what's really going on here before we take victory lap after victory lap. It's important to understand the way that the fourth branch of government operates is with intentionality. There are no mistakes. There are no indictments without the right hand knowing what the left hand is doing. So the first most obvious takeaway is important. They're doing this to create the appearance of impartiality so that they can continue their jihad against Donald Trump. So that under oath, they could say, well, as you can see, we have active indictments against Menendez and Hunter Biden, which gives us a mandate to go after Bannon and Donald Trump and Douglas Mackey, et cetera, et cetera. So it is the appearance of impartiality. And they do this low-hanging fruit indictment, which, by the way, you better believe that Bob Menendez deserves this. This is not some sort of concoction. This is not a reach. Now, when you read the indictment, it also demoralizes me a little bit. Because when the FBI, when the Department of Justice wants to do their job, they actually do a pretty good job. You read the indictment, and by pretty good job, I mean it's thorough. Bob Menendez does not stand a chance against the evidence they have here. Bob Menendez, the day after he comes back from Egypt, they also have the gold bars. He Googles how much is a kilo of gold worth the day after he comes back from Egypt. So that they did a rather forensically thorough job. But that's not what's going on here, okay? This is all surface level stuff. It's important. We got to mention it. There's something much deeper happening here. And it involves the 30th of September. He is the chair of the Senate Foreign Intelligence Committee. He is more powerful than the junior senator from New Jersey, Cory Booker. He is more powerful than Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff. He's more powerful than Mark Kelly. This is one of the big dogs of the Senate.
Breaking news that will have ripple effects in Washington and beyond. New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, who is the chair of the
House Foreign Relations,
Senate Foreign Relations Committee,
Look how big
he's
his eyes
being
are.
charged with corruption-related charges for the second time in 10 years.
Oh, you look
He was
confused.
charged and indicted before, and there was a hung jury, and now he's being charged again for something completely different.
Only act that way if, number
Hung
one,
jury.
you really have sociopathic tendencies.
Okay, and they
Like,
didn't go
you got
after it
a big
again?
problem, right?
He got away with it? Wow.
The second is you just think you're untouchable.
Wow.
Menendez says, look, we
That's
run the
why.
government. I'm the chairman of the Foreign Intelligence Committee or the Foreign Affairs Committee. I can do whatever I want.
Because he's been doing whatever he's wanted.
So while most conservative media, Menendez, bad guy, DOJ, trying to look balanced. Now there's something even deeper occurring. Under the surface, which is where our program always goes. Menendez is a not so subtle reminder. Because it's not just Menendez that is having a bad Friday, September 22nd. No. Menendez is a warning. Menendez, he's a message.
For the demos
Because you better believe
that we're coming
that
for
there are
you.
other U.S. senators nervous, going through their own search history,
We're coming for
talking to
you.
lawyers and attorneys, sweating it out, wondering if they're next. That's exactly what the fourth branch of government wants. So Bob Menendez is stepping down as his chairmanship of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee because of the indictment. He's gonna have to fight that. This guy is such a criminal. He's such a traitor to the United States. It's very similar to Joe Biden. You know, Joe Biden sells out the country. It's just that Bob Menendez was sloppier than Joe Biden. But what's really going on here is that 9:30 is coming into sight and a government shutdown is looming. The administrative state,
Is
the
Biden
insiders,
not
the
the
fourth
one
branch of
behind it?
government, they're getting a little nervous that some of their funding
I mean,
might
he
be
is
put in
behind
jeopardy.
it, but he's not.
So you
He's
have to ask the
smart
question,
guy.
why do they unseal the indictment against Bob
brains.
Menendez now? Now, the kind of normie argument is, oh, Charlie, timing means nothing, and it's just the way it is. No. There's more to the story here. They're trying to put the senators on notice in the U.S. Senate. If you question us, if you even as much as cut a half of a penny of our money, you might be next. Because you better believe that Bob Menendez is definitely the most, I don't want to say the most corrupt, but he's
Yeah.
just a sloppy,
He's
bribe-accepting
one of
traitor.
them.
This guy's not very sophisticated. But think about other senators that might be doing deals via their son, or deals via their cousin, or deals via the uncle, very similar to how Joe Biden configured many of these ideas. The fourth branch of government is doing this publicly, is doing
Good.
this before the continuing resolution funding fight is resolved, because they want to remind you who is in charge. And that includes Democrats. If you do not get right in line and parrot the talking points of the intelligence agencies, then the sword of Damocles could fall on your head.
They need
If you
to.
study Joseph Stalin,
They need to.
Stalin was a maniac.
Tired of this shit going
But
on.
how was Stalin able to hold on to power for so long? First of all, Stalin had
fair.
50,000 bodyguards.
Not right.
He was a paranoid maniac. We don't talk enough about Stalin being actually a seminary student early in his life, understanding the Bible, and then becoming a committed atheist. That's really sick when you think about it. A guy that studied the scriptures for years and then becomes
Atheist.
someone who worships at the altar of the state. If that's not demonic, I don't know what is. Stalin, responsible for almost more murders than any other human being in the history of the planet. Maybe Mao and him are tied. It's unknown how many people. The intentional starvation of people, the intentional massacring, the gulags, all that. Stalin did several purges to eradicate enemies of the working class, going after the kulaks, the property owners, going after the dissidents, going after the comedians. Sound familiar? Stalin needed to keep people on their toes. Stalin said, hey, if you even as much mention the famine, and that's exactly what's happening on the border, which is our next segment. It's so Soviet. There's no problem on the border. It's exactly like what Pravda would publish in 1934 Russia.
And
There's
whoever
no famine.
says that is part of the problem.
It's a bountiful harvest. There's never been a year as great as 1934. Stalin also did another thing, is he would randomly, without any sort of reason, pick someone that has been effective, loyal, and close to him and kill him. He did this arbitrarily as a message to everyone else that you could be next. One of the most
Damn.
famous of these is a man by the name of General Tukhachevsky. General Tukhachevsky.
To enrich several New Jersey businessmen and benefit the government of Egypt. Prosecutors say the bribes included cash, gold, payments towards a home mortgage, and a luxury car, just to name a few of the benefits. Menendez is the chair of the powerful Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He and his wife each face 3 criminal counts. United Auto Workers Union is expanding its strike against Detroit's big 3 automakers to 38 plants in 20 states. The union is now targeting distribution centers in addition to vehicle production plants. The work stoppage started with 3 plants last week when workers walked off the assembly line and onto the picket line at a General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis plant. The UAW says Ford has been spared additional strikes because the company has met some of its demands over the past week. GM and Stellantis, however, will feel the brunt of the walkouts. The union is asking for 36% pay raises over 4 years and a 32-hour work week for 40 hours of pay. Union members point to the Big Three's massive profits as justification for the raises. Well, we're now down to 9 full.
Well, why can't we, the people, get paid more when the government is making money off of us?
Budget, much less all of the Democrats.
Seems unfair to me.
Plus, lawmakers are leaving D.C. for the weekend, and the White House is reportedly telling all government agencies today to prepare for a shutdown on October 1st. Thursday, the Republican-led House failed for at least the second time this week to pass a motion to even debate an $886 billion defense spending bill. Again, 5 Republicans joined Democrats in opposing that measure, setting up the latest roadblock for Speaker Kevin McCarthy to move the party's funding agenda forward.
He was a very loyal Stalin general. In fact, he had the nickname as being called Red Napoleon. He was prominent for 20 years. He was a military officer. He ran one of Stalin's military academies. He was chief of staff for the Red Army for 3 years. Major proponent for the Soviet military. One of Stalin's closest confidants. He and Stalin would vacation together, and they were loyal. He did nothing wrong by any objective measurement.
Okay, so what did he do to him?
But between 1936 and 1934, Stalin wanted to send a message. And the message was that no one is off limits. That I get to decide who lives. I get to decide.
That's sick.
And General Tukhachevsky was killed in the Soviet show trials between 1936 and 1938. Wow. And the administrative state operates exactly the same.
I didn't know that.
And fear is an effective tool to control people, including...
I'm not fearful. I don't give a damn. I'm speaking out. I don't care no more. I'm tired of this shit.